Hey, good Saturday morning, everybody. It's Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here at home, tracking our severe weather threat for Sunday night into Monday. Now, today, no issues, and really the majority of Sunday is going to be fine. We're really talking about that Sunday night into Monday morning time frame. So let's get right to what's happening here. Here's our upper level low, which is a cutoff low, we call it. It's cut off from the main flow there. You can see the subtropical jet stream here and also a disturbance developing here. Watch at the same time the polar jet stream gets involved. Typically, when we see these big severe weather outbreaks, we've got a lot of wind energy coming together, and that's what you see right here. But what you don't see is a big influence of tropical moisture. The Gulf of Mexico is at really just crazy record heat right now for this time of year. That warm, moist air is going to be moving up from the south. And if you heard me yesterday, the one thing that makes severe weather so dangerous in the spring is when you get that wintertime jet stream, which is a lot of wind energy, over top really warm summertime heat and humidity. And that's what we're going to see here across the south. That's why the spring and fall are our big severe weather seasons. So let's take a look at the outlook. I'm going to bring this up real quickly. This is the outlook for today. You see the severe weather outlook. We're in that high range across parts of Texas, medium for a big chunk. Tomorrow, Easter Sunday. So a lot to unpack here. You can see what's going on. We've got a big area of red, which is a higher risk. And again, this is based on the SPC outlook. So we kind of color shade it here to give you a little better clarity. But notice this area that's highlighted in black here. This is an area where we expect significant severe weather, talking long track, large tornadoes possible. The Charlotte area and most of the Carolinas, again, we're in kind of that medium threat right now. And the reason we're kind of in that medium threat is because this goes into Monday morning. Remember, I talked about yesterday, this outlook for tomorrow goes from 8 a.m. Sunday morning to 8 a.m. Monday morning. So what you're seeing over the Carolinas is really for Monday morning. So you see the high risk off to the west, our medium threat here across Charlotte and low. But watch what happens is if I show Monday morning, which goes from 8 a.m. Monday to 8 a.m. Tuesday, you could see how it shifts. So the reason you're seeing this is just a difference in timing. But me personally looking at it, this tells me this is a Monday morning event. So I know sometimes it's confusing. These outlooks have a certain day on them, but they're really for a 24-hour period that starts on one day and ends the next day. That's why sometimes you see that. So what's our primary concern? Well, let me show you real quickly. We'll show you that severe weather impacts. Damaging winds still our primary concern. Flooding, number two. Tornado threat. This is the thing that I'm getting a little worried about. I'm going to show you why. It could go up or it could go down. Going up is something I'm watching very carefully, the trends in some of the guidance. Let's look at the outlooks overall. We can show you the tornado threat here. I'm going to stop this. This is the tornado outlook for Sunday into Monday. Again, 8 a.m. Sunday to 8 p.m. So chances of a tornado within 25 miles of any point on the map, 15% in that hatched area, 10% in the wider hatched area. And those are hatched like that, which is the dark lines, because those are significant tornado chances, or the tornadoes that do develop in there could be significant. Now for the Carolinas, here's our tornado risk for Monday morning. We've got a little ribbon of 5%. Again, that's a 5% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of any point on the map in orange, 2% in yellow. Remember, don't look at these as rain chances, but 5% is not a big deal. This is a 5% chance of a tornado, not of a raindrop hitting you on the head, okay? So you got to treat these much differently. 2% is what we would call a low-end risk. 5% is when you start to pay attention. That's a little more significant. That's a tornado watch setup. 10%, that's tornado outbreak. So just to give you kind of clarity on what that means. Now, while tornadoes get all the billing and it's still a threat we're watching, I will caution you that the wind threat is still much higher. I don't know why that jumped up there. It's actually 15%. It should be orange. 15% probability of damaging winds over us. So notice that that we're about 10 times higher. More than that. 10% higher for the chances of seeing damaging winds. So definitely a higher probability of seeing damaging winds. Now the tornado threat, one of the things we can look at is that significant tornado parameter. Now I froze this at 8 a.m. Monday morning because this is the peak of the tornado parameter. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to get a tornado. These are the ingredients you need for a tornado on a scale from 0 to 10. And we're seeing 5.2 over Charlotte, 3.9 over Concord, and 4.3 over Monroe. Those are really high numbers for our area. Just to put this in perspective, The tornadoes we saw back in early February, we had about a 2 to 3. So these are definitely comparable and in some cases a little bit higher. So really high tornado parameter or ingredients for tornadoes. This would definitely tell me we are going to see a tornado watch at some time. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to see a ton of tornadoes because there's still some caveats. Tornadoes are incredibly difficult to form. If you take one ingredient away, you don't get them. So let me show you what I think is going to happen based on the guidance. So what I'm showing here is I'm going to back this up because I went ahead way too quickly. I'm going to start this on Easter morning. So we'll start this at 8 a.m. So this is what I expect to see 8 a.m. based on the guidance. We've got a lot of rain to the west, our system developing back here. We'll go through the day on Easter. We'll go into the afternoon. I'm going to stop it at 18Z, which is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This is non-severe right now. This is heavy rain. This is the severe weather outbreak tomorrow. The thing we need to watch is, do we get supercells or a line, or a QLCS we call it? Right now, over the Mid-South, I'm talking Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, maybe Tennessee, looks like supercells and a QLCS. I'll show you how this unfolds. We'll go into Sunday evening, and again, we're getting to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Let's stop this at about 8 p.m. our time. You could see that line developing back here, but we've also got, it looks like, supercells developing here. So, and maybe some up in here. So a complex setup to our west. This is why they're under that extremely significant threat for severe storms, because there's going to be several waves. Over us, it's all just heavy rain, kind of a miserable, wet day, probably flash flood threat in the afternoon. We go through time. We'll go into the overnight hours Sunday. Look at that line. That's 10 o'clock at night, and we've got supercells over Alabama with a squall line back to the west. Let's go to 2 o'clock in the morning our time, 2 a.m. We get into a lull. And what we'll be watching is, do we get supercells or the line? That's the big caveat. We get supercells, we're going to have more more of a tornado threat. So let's go to 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. I'll stop this at 6 a.m. 5 a.m. This is not a good looking line, folks, because not only is it a line, but it looks like embedded in there, we've got some segments that would probably be producing damaging winds and tornadoes. We'll go to 6 a.m., 7 a.m. The line's moving in. So this is 7 o'clock in the morning. This is a gnarly line. And we'll stop this at 8 o'clock. Remember those STP values, or significant tornado parameter? This is when they peak at 8 a.m. And look at the line. It's not really a line. We've got broken up segments. This would definitely highlight more of a tornado threat if these things can make it down to the surface. And the slower this is, if this is 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, that increases our tornado chance, because that gives time for warm, humid air to surge in from the south. Again, it's not so much heating of the day, it's the fact that we would have time for warm air to get pulled in here, because what we expect to happen is a warm front will be moving to the north sometime Sunday evening. And the faster that happens, and the longer it takes for this line to the west to get here, that gives time for this to fill in, this warm sector to fill in with really warm, humid air, which is the fuel that will tap into these strong winds and bring them down to the surface either as damaging winds or tornadoes. And I'll go a couple more hours. So this is 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11, noon, and then you can see the threat. So let's go back and look at something we look at often. You probably have seen me show this, updraft helicity. This is basically a rotating updraft in the storm. About 30% of these type of storms produce tornadoes. So you can see these rotating storms here developing to our west. These are the 1 hour rotation tracks. We'll go to, we'll go to 7 a.m. and I'll do it at 8 a.m. So at 8 a.m. you can see there's a track here, a track in the mountains, and track down here. Let's go to 9 a.m. Another one moving here. Now again, don't think, oh, that's where it's going to be. This just goes to show you there's probably going to be 2 or 3 of these storms somewhere in there that will have rotation. It's just like any model. A model is not giving you a specific answer. It's giving you a range of answers. That's what you need to look at. So what this model is telling us is that somewhere in here, we're probably going to have 2 or 3 storms that are rotating. They won't be exactly where this model tells you they're going to occur. It just tells you that's probably the number of storms that are going to rotate in this general area. So that's 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. So a little bit of good news, even though those STP values were off the charts, the number of rotating storms is actually pretty low considering the amount of energy that we saw in there. And speaking of that energy, let me show you the 500 millibar wind speeds, which is basically about 1,500 feet off the ground, because this will tell you a lot about the wind energy coming in with this system. These are in knots, by the way, not miles per hour. So look at those strong winds coming with this system up around 15,000 feet. And why is that important? Because when you have thunderstorms or a dynamic system, it mixes those strong winds down to the surface. So you want to talk about a widespread area that could see damaging winds. I mean, these are 100 to 110 knot winds at 15,000 feet. I went too quick. Watch as they move into the Carolinas. That is a lot of wind energy, especially for the mountains, because obviously being higher elevation, you're closer to them. It won't take as much to mix it down. But again, with that heavy band of storms moving through right around 8 a.m., these strong winds will be mixing down to the surface. So just crazy amount of wind energy. And if you're thinking about, those dew points, we were talking about the dew points. Let me see if I can show you the dew point temperatures, because to me, the dew point temperatures are really crazy as well. As far as the temperatures, I'm going to back this up and kind of show you the increase in moisture. So initially, this wedge of cool air trapped against the mountains might help us out, but watch this warm, moist air to the south begin to stream north as we go into Monday morning. I'm going to stop this right around. We're going to stop this right around 6 a.m. So temperatures jump, and in many locations, you can see these temperatures here are almost 70 degrees. So warm, humid air streaming in from the south, flooding into ahead of it. And that's the reason you see those, what we call CAPE values. I'll show you the CAPE values, which are crazy high as well. I think I have surface-based CAPE here. Let me turn it on. So these are our CAPE, our warm, moist air is thunderstorm fuel. Watch it surge up here on Monday morning. And you can see everything's in green there. Again, the legend's off to the right. You don't need to know the numbers. Just know the higher they are, the worse it is. So you could look in there. There's some oranges and reds. So, that's springtime thunderstorm fuel, and it's happening at 8 o'clock in the morning. So a really high risk for severe storms. So let's show you that breakdown again. I think this is the best way I can show you this. I'm actually going to move my face out of the way for a second here. You can see this is the timing right now. I've readjusted these to kind of give a good idea. It's really that 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning time frame for tornadoes and for damaging wind. So that's the time frame right in there, folks, that we're concerned about for potential for a significant severe weather event. So as the bottom says, please stay weather aware. This has the potential to be a significant event. The good news I will tell you is this thing should be in and out quickly Monday morning, but in that time frame, 4 a.m. to about 9 a.m., 10 a.m.-ish is the time we need to be prepared. Of course, I will do updates throughout the weekend, likely going to be ready to go on Monday morning as well. I will do another vlog possibly tonight, but for sure, first thing tomorrow as some of the new guidance comes in. And I will post any updates to any of the severe outlooks and some of these updates. Have a great Saturday and stay weather aware.